right, I invite everyone to close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. Okay, we are going to go back to the section called The Dreamer of the Dream, which is on text 581. I'm just going to start by reviewing a couple of the things that we've addressed so far. So in paragraph 2, Jesus is introducing us to the awareness that now you are being shown you can't escape. So in other words, the ego part of us projected into the world, our guilt, sin, and fear, and we have spent many lifetimes, especially this one, focusing on the illusion and focusing on things that are outside of the character me, thinking that I'm an innocent victim of all the circumstances that take place in the world. And line 2 says, all that is needed is that you look upon the problem as it is and not the way that you have set it up. And I know I've given this example before, but if we have a roof that's leaking and it's dripping down into the kitchen floor, we know that we all go get a mop and mop away and try to keep the floor dry. But the real problem is the roof that's leaking, and we can mop and mop and mop all we want, buy the best mops in the world, but unless the problem gets solved or taken care of, we are going to continue to have to mop. And I think it's necessary for us to recognize that we do need to mop, because if we don't clean the floor, we're going to trip on it, and if it doesn't get wiped up, the floorboards underneath are going to start to rot, and then we're going to have more problems, and so on and so forth. And in a lot of ways, if we look at the setup of the ego, we could call the roof this, and this is the floor that keeps needing to be mopped up. And in the progression of practicing the course, we probably will still need to address mopping up the floor. But what Jesus is trying to help us understand and do is to start becoming aware, but there's a cause that is bringing this effect forward. And if you really want to solve the problem, you don't want to keep buying new mops. Not that you shouldn't use them while you need them, but that you need to get up, get that ladder, get it up on the roof, and then repair what the problem is. And the problem from the perspective of the course is never what's going on here. It's always what's going on in the mind. Although, as we all know, we are very often pulled in and distracted by what the world has to say and what it shows us and how we should fix it and change it and make it better. But I think if we can at least hold on to the idea in your mind of, wait a minute, it's not really what's going on here, it's what's going on in the mind that I need to fix. And he goes on to say in line 5, the choice will not be difficult because the problem is absurd when clearly seen. If I get to the point where I understand that the problem is the roof leaking, I'm going to start to spend more time on working on fixing the roof than on my energy in mopping the floor. And again, that's what he wants to help us understand and begin to focus on. And then in paragraph 4, we read last week of this whole idea of we project into the world and then we blame something or someone in the world for my lack of peace. And it explains that vengeance must have a focus. In other words, I have to have a something that is causing me to lose my peace. Couldn't possibly be my choice It has to be something within the world. I'm actually going to read the next couple lines. Otherwise is the avenger's knife in his own hand and pointed to himself. So though my brother will be pointing the knife to me, rather that's by a unkind statement, a dirty look, whatever it may be, it doesn't have to be a physical knife. We still experience it as though I'm an innocent victim. Something or someone outside of me is causing me to lose my peace. And this is all a big setup so that I can play the part of an innocent victim, remain the separated son without addressing or becoming aware that the guilt, sin, and fear that's coming forth in my illusion is really coming forth from that choice for separation. And he must see it in another's hands if he would be victim of attack he did not choose. Again, it's so important for us to really, 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 really get the idea that we are paying a very high price of playing the part of an innocent victim so we can make it look like somebody else is the problem and not little sweet, little adorable me. Let's see, and thus he suffers from the wounds a knife he does not hold has made upon himself. So though it appears that somebody else is holding that knife, in truth, it is myself that is hiding this thought system and putting it into the world that's holding the knife that is being pointed at myself. And I'm very, very well aware that most of us might hear this intellectually and start to grasp it a bit, but it's really hard to put that into practice in our daily life experiences because we live and breathe in a thought system of kill or be killed. And our natural response as a programmed robot is you do something to me, I'm going to do something back to you. And we just keep bantering back and forth. And for us to come to the number one, conscious awareness of, wait a minute, what's really going on here, to be able to close that down and not respond in the way that we normally did. And I know Beata shared a story last week of her neighbor yelling and screaming at her and telling her that she was a piece of shit, and how she described that though it came in on her, it kind of shattered her, there was a part of her that was able to view it from a bit of a distance, so it didn't come in perhaps as strongly as it might have in the past. And as we keep practicing this, as we keep choosing for the Holy Spirit instead of for the ego, that ability to observe it instead of be it starts to come to play. And again, that's a great deal of the practice of the Course and how we kind of, I guess you could say, finagle our way in the context of the illusion, but not being so solid in it as far as how we respond. So in paragraph 5, he said, look then beyond effects. So what he's saying is, you're going to start with an effect. Let's say it's somebody that called you a name and you feel bad, okay? That's where it's going to start. And then what we would do is recognize that's what I wanted. I wanted them to say that so that I would feel like an innocent victim. Because again, we pay a very high price for the character of a victim. But then when he says, look then beyond the effects, then we're being asked to, kind of put the effects away and then look towards what the cause is. And of course, the cause is always, this is what I'm doing to myself because I want to remain separate and individual and different, but I don't want to take the responsibility for being the cause of it. So we play this game out here instead of going back to where the cause is and actually heal the situation as it is. All right, in paragraph 7, the witness to sin all stand within one little space, and that little space is the thought of separation. There is a place in the Course where it talks about the idea every possibility occurred in that one instant when the Son of God chose to separate from love. And we keep recycling that one thought and reinventing it in another way, in another form, I guess you could say. And we keep bringing it back up over and over and over. And what we're being asked to do is recognize, wait a minute, I'm caught up in another false form that is taking me down a road that it makes it appear that this is real, but he keeps trying to help me understand that it's not real because this body is not even who I really am. So we always look outside for the problem because we're afraid to look within. Because again, when we chose the separation, we chose to never, ever, 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 ever look back. And that's one of the parts of the setup of the ego to keep us stuck here. And as Ken would often say, the number one most important thing of the Course is that we now know we have a mind that can choose differently. Even if we're not ready to choose differently, we are becoming aware that there is another way. All right. And there was a message that Helen got at one point in time, and it was never underestimate the power of denial. And what is the power of denial? The power of denial is the entire world. It's the whole illusion. As long as I'm focused in the illusion, I'm denying what the real problem is. And, you know, we can't underestimate how strongly the illusion takes hold of us and keeps us stuck within that context. And we're being asked to pay attention to the dream of the mind, not because it's real, but because that's how I can find what's going on in my mind. If something can trigger me, make me lose my peace, it's because I'm identified with that thought system. And I can point my finger at whatever or whoever it is, but the bottom line is it's really going to come from my mind. And I could get rid of that person. Let's say it's a neighbor. I can move away and move somewhere else. But something or someone else will re-trigger that experience in some form or another because the problem really hasn't been healed. And just like I started the story with cleaning the kitchen floor. Yes, my kitchen floor looks nice and dry now. But the next time it rains, I'm going to have more water dripping in the kitchen floor. And until I fix the roof, it's never going to happen. It's always going to keep recycling itself. All right, so we're going to move to paragraph number 8. Does anybody have anything up till now we could address if we need to? Nope. Okay, then we will start with paragraph 8. No one can awaken from a dream the world is dreaming for him. He becomes a part of someone else's dream. He cannot choose to awaken from a dream he did not make. Helpless, he stands a victim to a dream conceived and cherished by a separate mind. Careless indeed of him, this mind must be as thoughtless of his peace and happiness as is the weather or the time of day. It loves him not, but casts him as it will in any role that satisfies its dream. So little is his worth that he is but a dancing shadow, leaping up and down according to a senseless pot, conceived within the idle dreaming of the world. All right, so no one can awaken from a dream. The world is dreaming for him. So as long as we believe this dream is, happening, and I have absolutely no control over what the dream is, I'm never going to be able to awaken because I'm an effect, and I'm playing in the world of effect, trying to find an answer that can't be found in an answer of effect. So a lot of our practice, again, is becoming aware, becoming more cognitive of what's going on in the dream, and keep working towards the understanding of the Course of what Jesus is trying to tell us. The problem doesn't lie here. The problem lies there. And as long as I'm focusing here, which we all do, I'm very well aware, where the dreaming is never going to wake up because I'm going to feel like I'm an effect of something I have no control over. But when we realize this is an effect of a cause that we do have control over, and it's an effect of a cause that we wanted because we didn't want to be the effect of God, we wanted to be the creator. And as a result of being the creator, I got to be an individual, and then there's a God that is separate from myself, and then a brother who's separate from myself. And instead of continuing with love and peace and joy and oneness, I have a whole nother aspect of adjectives that I live under called sin, guilt, fear, death, projection, and that we're all different. And as long as this thought system holds more value in my conscious or subconscious mind, this is what's going to always run the show. But as we begin to slowly have the little willingness to drop our investment at this and choose for this, this will start to take over because I'm changing the only thing I can change to make this healed experience occur. He becomes a part of someone else's dream. So in other words, when we're within the dreaming a dream of the world that I'm not dreaming, I have to just do the best I can within the context of the illusion. And I think everyone in this group has certainly attempted to control the world, attempted to make it better, attempted to, not feel as bad in the world, or any other ways that we've attempted to make changes in our world. That internal experience of lack of peace has never been able to be healed. Because again, the answer does not lie here. He cannot choose to awaken from a dream he did not make. Well, that's good news for the ego, because I don't want to remember that I should awaken. I want to be an innocent victim and have everything and everyone be the problem. Until we come to that moment, much like Helen and Bill, who came to the realization that there's got to be another way. We've worked through these ways many, many, many times, many, many ways, only to the understanding that something's not right here. Something's amiss here. And that's what the little crack that occurred to allow us to become aware that there is something beyond that. But as long as he cannot choose to awaken from a dream he does not make. As long as I'm enmeshed in the effects of the dreamer, I'm never going to be able to awaken from it, because it's not possible. It's like being in a maze, trying to find out how to get out of the maze, and the only way you're going to get out of the maze is to rise above the maze, not within the context of the maze. Helpless, he stands a victim to a dream conceived and cherished by a separate mind. And that's how we feel. We're helpless. We stand as a victim in a dream. There's nothing I can do to fix it. And we believe it's something outside of us that's causing that dream to occur. And it has nothing to do with the choice in my mind.
So, Marianne, could I ask a question?
Sure.
When Helen and Bill said, there's got to be another way, they really didn't know that there was another way. They just felt this victimization.
Correct.
And so their question was really, if there's another way, please show me what it is.
Yes.
Because they didn't really know there was another way. They just didn't like what was going on.
Correct. And much like we talked last week a little bit about the idea of coming to that place where we banged our head against the wall in so many different directions and attempted to control the world. And there's that kind of like specific moment where it's like, okay, I've had enough of this. There's got to be something beyond what I can conceive, what I can understand, and I want to get in touch with that. And as you said, they didn't know what the answer to that was going to be or what it was going to look like, but they opened the door to the possibility of having that experience. And, I think all of us, to whatever degree, have found that moment where the world did not provide the answers that we were promised would be available to us. And we're now looking for something else. And that's what allowed the possibility of the Course to come to us, or us to have it be open to it, however you want to put it. And that's a special moment. Now, just because we had that special moment doesn't mean it was like kumbaya after that. I mean, Helen and Bill, they agreed to the challenge of taking down the Course, but they had a real rough relationship. Apparently, from what I understand, when they were taking down the Course, they were totally focused and they were doing what they were supposed to do. But outside of taking up the Course, they butted heads all the time. And apparently in other lifetimes, they had some real rough times as well. I know there's a couple of new people on the call, so I'll share a story where Helen had a vision that she and Bill lived in this small town, and she was the priestess and he was a slave, and he stole this big jewel out of her crown and took it, and then they found out it was him, and it was her job to take this sword or whatever and hit it, kill him by hitting him in the heart, and she couldn't do it. So the next scene was her out in the desert, completely stripped by all of her, her queenliness or whatever, and obviously she died in the forest, or in the out again, away from the area. And it's like, we don't really know in our daily life experiences what we're really up against when we encounter people in our lives that maybe really upset us. And sometimes people will say, well, I forgave this person and poof, it was gone in 5 minutes, no big deal, and that just never came back. And then other people in our experience, we may ask for forgiveness over and over and over, and we may have experiences that seem like they're getting better, and then bam, it comes back again and comes and gets us. But we really don't know what we're undoing, because not only can we not see all of our history, but our history is affecting who we are, again, not because it's real, but because of our investment in believing that it's real. And so, the Course is always telling us, like in workbook number 5, I'm never upset for the reason I think. I don't know the whole storyline. And Jesus, even in the Course, has this sweet little line that says, it's not that you can't judge your brother, it's impossible for you to judge your brother. Because in order for you to judge your brother, you would have to know everything about his past and the future and everything in between. Well, I'm not capable of knowing that. He is, but we're not. And yet we look through this little, piece, little spot, and we think we know how to judge our brother, and we think we know how we should control them, or how they should be and how they shouldn't be. And that's not really up to us. And that's why he keeps saying, do you have the willingness to drop your investment in what you think is truth and allow me to show you what truth is? And some moments we do, and some moments we don't. And we need to be, honor the moments that we're not ready yet, because even that is very important. Because if I can really acknowledge, okay, right now, today, I'm not ready to let it go. Eventually we will come to the point where we can and will let it go. And the reason why we can't let it go in any given moment is because I'm too afraid of what that oneness really would be expressed as. And that's not something to judge myself about. It's something to become aware of and keep holding the door open to be shown how I can see it through his eyes instead of through my eyes.
But would you say that that Helen and Bill did see this as the other way?
Yes, I think
this is what they asked for. This is what they asked for.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
This is, okay.
Yes, but again, all of us have asked for another way as well, in our own way, whether we were necessarily consciously aware of it or not. But we also know that door has been open, But now living this through the understanding becomes our next classroom. Because again, with Helen and Bill, they had, a lot of conflict between the two of them. Even, towards the end, I guess Bill felt he completely healed with Helen when he died. But there's that constant, which moment, in this moment, which one of these thoughts am I going to adhere to? And even in the midst of some pretty rough, conflicted experiences, which they definitely had, and then there's that place in I think it's in the workbook lessons where it talks about different types of relationships. And one might be, bumping into a little child in the elevator and having a smile, which would be a form of forgiveness. Another one is with people that you knew maybe in school and then you never see after that. And then some relationships are long-lasting relationships, like with our parents or our siblings or our bosses. And it specifically states in there, some of these relationships can be horrific relationships, and yet they are perfect as an opportunity to work on healing if you choose to use them for that purpose.
That's in the manual for teachers.
Oh, okay. All right. I knew it was in the back there somewhere. Thanks, Jason.
I want to say that also it's in the relationship with everything now.
Oh, yes, definitely. Everything.
The coronavirus.
Everything. That's why it's on here, baby.
I love that coronavirus.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I did this chart, because I want you to be aware. It doesn't matter if it's a person, and obviously working with people is probably a major focus, but it can be literally anything, big or small, that catches me. It's like the hook is in my heart. Something's got me. And these are opportunities to choose and to work through the course if you're ready to work through it. And, I always say a lot of times the classrooms are going to hit you below the belt. And what I mean by that is it's going to come where you live and it's going to be pulling it out, because, it's literally taking us to the place where I can't be disrupted by anything that happens in the world. But it's going to give me a, run for the money till I get to the point where I can be in that place.
And one of the things that Ken says about it, that we have to look at, and most people, 99.9% people don't want to see it, what the Course is saying, the underlying metaphysics, that this isn't real.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's what's the first line in the Course? Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. I mean, he doesn't wait until chapter 49. He starts with page 1, first line. And yet it's almost like we go, oh yeah, that's nice. La, 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 la. That can't really be what he's talking about. And so the study and the practice of the Course is literally coming to own and live those words. And, then observe how challenging and difficult for most of us living those words really is.
Yeah, we're not healing relationships.
No, you're healing your relationship with your mind. And
Yes,
that's the only thing we're ever healing.
And what's happening out there is just for lack of a better word, manifestation of what's happening in my mind. So, yes. I look at it as, I have an issue with this person. How does that relate to me? Where am I coming from?
Yes.
I had an incident yesterday where somebody was trying to make me wrong really hard, and I was taking it, I was upset. And, this morning I woke up and I thought, can somebody make me wrong? No, I can make me wrong.
Yes.
That's where it starts. I make me wrong, and then boom, you're trying to, make me wrong, damn it. It's all your fault.
Yep. Which goes right back to what we talked of last week of, Beata brought up about if somebody walked up to you and said, you're a car, you would go, what's wrong with you? Or somebody said, you got purple hair and you're 8 feet tall. You would look at that person and you would go, huh, what's wrong with them? But it wouldn't affect you.
Right.
But anything that can disrupt or disturb my peace in any way, shape, or form has a trigger to it, which leads to that thought system.
Yeah, and
Always, unequivocally, can't never be any other way.
all it's telling me is I'm listening to ego.
Yes, which is a beautiful piece of information if we can begin to take it in from that place. Because literally, I will never know what's going on in my mind unless something here triggers me to be challenged by the fact that my peace is not there. And it's sort of like it seems like it's a backwards, upside down kind of thing, which the Course does even actually speak of. But it's almost like we have to start with what the setup was and now use it for a different purpose. And that's not our natural flow. Our natural flow is, damn it, kill or be killed. You took my peace away, I'm going to get you. And all that does is focus us deeper into the illusion.
And this place is what's upside down and backwards.
Right, exactly. And we worked on I think it's called the Awaken from the Dream. Was that the one that Bill and his wife wrote? Anyways, a little book, and we kind of worked on this, and I've been thinking.
Ken and Gloria, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That we're either walking towards the light or we're walking to the darkness. There are no other choices. There is nothing else available. And we can go back and forth, obviously, but in any given instant, we're going one direction or the other direction. So if I am, let's say, responding to the coronavirus, just as one example, guess which way I'm going? I'm going that way. Can I stop and go, wait a minute, hold it. I want to show me what the light looks like, because I don't have access to that right now. All I see is, damn, this is horrible and terrible, and I don't know why, we can blame it and point fingers forever. But the bottom line is I'm experiencing it through that lens because that's the direction I'm going.
And Tashara pointed out something to me that was helpful in that same light group, dark group thing,
Right. Yeah.
where I want to be a part of a middle group. I want to have a foot in each side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, think about it from the perspective of, we're not stupid, okay? We want to be in the middle because I'm afraid of this, and I prefer not to go this way. And, in that book as well, they talked about the idea of we want to be God's first lieutenants. So we think we need to fix the darkness. So we go over to fix the darkness, but as we go over to fix the darkness, we're actually becoming the darkness instead of releasing it and going to the light. And that's real hard to just drop all of that and just choose for the light, because we're so addicted to doing and fixing and changing and making it better. And I think I have control and value in making the world work right.
Yeah, and understanding that this is all or nothing.
All or nothing, 100%. Yeah, black or white.
I don't think it's really into making up things, colors.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
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 Well, don't you think also that we're all at that same crossroads? Whenever something's going on, we decide there's got to be another way, or we like this way.
Yep. And I think we have to also be extremely, extremely, extremely gentle on ourselves, guys. We've been going that direction, or we'll use this one. We've been going this direction since the Big Bang. Okay, so do you think if I go, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to drop that and come over here for 1 second, that's going to heal all of this? Unfortunately, it's not because it couldn't be done, but because my investment in believing that darkness exists and it's real and it's got value is still very intact in our understanding. And understand when we look at this dark group, we can look and go, oh, well, that's not me. As Rose said, I'm kind of in the middle. I have a little bit of both of these. But the Course, as Tashara said, is black or white. I am either here or I am here. And when I'm here instead of here, I'm in the dark group. I'm in the hate group. I'm in the opposite of love group. And that in itself is really challenging to grasp and to hold and take in, and not feel even worse about myself than I thought I felt before. Because he's not telling us that we're bad or that we've sinned because that's the choice that was made. It's just that it's bringing us darkness instead of light. And when we really want light more than we want darkness, this will be our automatic choice. And, you know, the course is very specific as well, that this is not a course in, you know, condemnation and sin and you're bad and look what happened and blah, blah, blah. He says over and over, you simply made a silly mistake. Stop, come back over here where you belong. And we hear that and we go, oh, no, no, you don't understand. I'm not a very good person. I better hide in the illusion and I better keep this intact and not go back there because it's not going to work. And he keeps saying, yeah, it will. Just keep coming back. And then he presents it in that beautiful way of all I want from you in any given moment is the little willingness. He doesn't ask us to fix it. He doesn't ask us to figure it out. He simply asks us to drop our investment in what we thought. In other words, again, where was that line? All that is needed is that you look upon the problem as it is and not the way you have set it up. Well, how did I set it up? I set it up that I'm an innocent victim and this, that, or those, or them are what the problem is. He wants us to drop that so that we can find out what the answer is instead. Okay, Andrea, go ahead.
Just to realize that I think the hard part is to realize we're not really digging this, what's going on. We're not having a good time with this. We're like, this is, I don't like this. Well, now, so what? I got to eat it. I got to stick with it, you know? And instead to go that this system allows you to go deeper and allows you to go past what you're not really digging and help you to see that you don't have to keep digging it.
And I think that your comment of not digging it is number one, because until I get to the point where I realize the world just doesn't have the answers I'm looking for any longer. And I know people would come to the foundation sometimes and they will have had read, you know, some of the other spiritual books about the course and whatever. And they thought this was all about love and this was all about how wonderful it is and everything. And then they would hear Ken's teachings, who basically says, we got to get into the nitty gritty here, guys. We got to find out what the problem is. And they would be in tears. And he'd say, you're probably not ready for this yet. Not that, you know, there's something wrong with them, but that they still have faith that there's something in the world that's going to solve the problem. And
I mean, that, don't you think that's too like what Helen and Bill, they said there's got to be another way. Well, what gave them that insight? You know, where did they come off knowing? It feels like they tuned into that part that's eternal with Jesus, you know, with God,
right?
And that shows us that we all have that. But I guess you could not deny that as well, that we don't, you know, say, no, that's not it. That's what happens. And I guess, but two, that the answer is not that far behind the question.
Right.
Is what they try to say that.
Just as Marianne said, it has to do with the history too.
Yes.
Bill and Helen had a history of being able to work with the psychic world.
It was also in the script.
Yeah, right. And there's also that line at the beginning of the course that talks about the idea there's a limit to how much pain we can tolerate. And when we hit that point, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, that's the moment where we basically say, I've had enough. I can't figure this out. And I don't know for anyone what your experiences were that took you to that, but somehow you came to that point where the answers that I was promised within the context of the illusion just aren't available. And I'm willing to look beyond that now.
Yeah, to think that, so that, you know, I guess I've hit up against enough people who said whatever I thought about something wasn't possible, but how there has to be some kernel of something in you that says it might be worth looking
Yes.
beyond the obvious. So you're, but I guess, and that all goes together then with when you're fed up with the world.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that seems, well, in other ways that it's a cop out, or that, this is all there is, and better face the music, and all that kind of stuff is just so such a strongly held belief in our lives, that this is all there is.
Yep. Well, and then there's also the other facet of, we've played the part of an innocent victim, again, since the Big Bang. Well, this course says you have to take responsibility. Well, that's not a familiar package for us to jump into, because I've been real busy doing this. And the course is saying, now you need to bring it back to this, but don't blame this either, because this isn't the problem either. It's the thought that brought this forth. That's where the problem lies. And even that's not real. But to the degree we invest in it being real, it's going to continue to cause the floor in the kitchen to have water, which we're going to have to keep mopping up until we get to the top and take care of that roof.
I always thought that this is how the world is. I always accepted this is how the world is, that there are problems in the world, and my job is, how am I going to solve them? I can solve them positively, or I can solve them negatively.
Right.
And I accepted the world. I didn't say, this is all goofed up and,
Right, but the answer as well, Bob, is that you were the one that was going to solve the problem, whether it was in a good way or a bad way. You were still in charge.
right.
Saying, no, you don't need to be in charge. You need to get out of the way, because you don't even know what the problem is, let alone how to fix it.
But there's the only thing I had to do is know what the next step was to take the problem to the Holy Spirit.
Right.
That's the part I didn't have.
Exactly, because you didn't know it was available.
Right.
And I had the opposite. When there was a problem, I said, well, I can't solve that. The heck with it. So I didn't ever, I never wanted to be there. I said, I didn't do this, and I don't care.
But did you feel bad because you didn't have the answer, Andrea?
What's that?
Did you feel bad because you didn't have an answer?
Yes, I felt like there wasn't an answer that the answer in the world was back and forth about this is right, no, this, like all the debates people would have, that everyone had a point, and I said, well, I don't care. I think it's just stupid. So that was it. Well, I guess I still think that, on a deep level, that, well, what are they arguing about? And that's just stupid. But then that now brings up my own sense of, I'm not digging this, and where, okay, is there's got to be another way, which I guess I've experienced that enough to where that's, what I want to know. I mean, maybe not immediately, but I understand that that's the way it works, and otherwise, and so that's made me, I guess, a more conscientious citizen than I used to be.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So line 4, I'm going to read again. Helpless he stands, a victim to a dream conceived and cherished by a separate mind. So we believe we are this helpless, innocent victim of circumstances beyond our control, and we have no input as to us being here or how to handle or solve the problems here. And again, the course is constantly trying to help us understand, though that is 100% your experience since the day you were born, that's not what's running the show. What's running the show is the choice that was made before you popped in, that you gladly chose because you were too afraid to go back to love. And this is what we took instead. Careless indeed of him, this mind must be, as thoughtless of his peace and happiness as the weather or the time of day. So in other words, just like I don't have the control over the time of the day or the weather, I don't have any control over what's going on here. I really am a sweet little adorable innocent victim. But that's not the truth. It's what we are experiencing life to be like, but it's not really what's going on. It loves him not, but cast him as it will in any role that satisfies its dream. So in other words, we're like the puppet who just gets pushed around wherever the next illusion needs to be that will keep us stuck within this context. And it works really well. It doesn't matter which it is. And you know, we talk about the idea. It doesn't matter if your house was bombed or if you broke a fingernail. As long as I'm not at peace, I can be the innocent victim. And again, we pay a very, 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 very high price to play off I'm an innocent victim. And we all have our ways. They can all look very different from one to the other, but the game is continually being played out all the time. So little is his worth that he is but a dancing shadow, leaping up and down according to the senseless plot conceived within the idle dreaming of the dream, or excuse me, of the world. And that's basically how this is played out. Or this like a leaf blowing in the wind that, you know, what's the next chaotic experience going to come down the pipe? And this is what we have accepted as our reality, our world, and we think this is normal and okay. And I think as we start to awaken to the realization that, you know, even the best of my life really wasn't, you know, like all that fantastic after all. But in the midst of really bad versus okay, we're going to take okay because okay is a lot better than really bad, but it still has a lot of lack enmeshed in it, even when it's not horrific. And so again, the whole idea of us is to slowly become aware that number one, the answer is not in the world, and the hope that the world is going to be better, good, wonderful, it is not going to happen either, because we are living in a dream of a world that's flawed. It's a world that is coming from the thought of separation instead of love. All righty, paragraph number 9. This is the only picture you can see, the one alternative that you can choose, the other possibility of cause. If you be not the dreamer of your dreams, and this is what you choose if you deny the cause of suffering is in your mind, be glad indeed it is, for thus are you the one deceiver of your destiny and time. The choice is yours to make between a sleeping death and dreams of evil, or a happy awakening and joy of love, or excuse me, of life. So this is where we find ourselves, and this is I guess you could say, the turning point of the realization of I'm only going to see the picture of this as long as the ego mind is going to be running the show. And if I realize I want differently than that, then I've got to drop my investment in what's been set up. So this is the only picture you can see, the one alternative that you can choose, the other possibility of cause, if you be not the dreamer of your dreams. So in other words, this is what you're going to get if you're going to live in the effect of a choice for the ego. It's only when we go to the cause, which was the choice for separation, and question if this is really what I want any longer, that any change will happen. As long as I'm trying to fix it in here, it's not going to happen. And this is what you choose if you deny the cause of suffering is in your mind. So what I'm going to choose is living in a world where, yes, I can play the part of an innocent victim, but there will always be the next perpetrator that's going to show up at my door, because that's the setup. It can't be any other way when that's the setup. Be glad indeed it is, for thus you are the one deceiver of your destiny and time. So what he's telling us, despite the fact that this is kind of irritating to find out, it is really good news, because if I recognize that I'm the one that deceived myself into believing that the illusion was going to be the answer to my problem, and it's not, now I can choose differently. So as he says in line 4, the choice is yours to make between a sleeping death and dreams of evil, or a happy awakening and joy of life. So keep remembering, when we chose for separation, we chose for guilt, sin, and fear, and death. And death is a theme that is talked about throughout the course. A little hard for us to really grasp because we think of death as, the physical body dying. But quite literally, what the course is saying is, having chosen for separation instead of for love, you began the storyline of death because we believe we killed off God. So one of the foundational blocks of choosing the ego is based on death. So we pop into the illusion, and day 1, we're born, and then day whatever is going to be the end of our physical life. So we now believe in a story of birth and death, when in truth, oneness is eternal. There is no death. And we don't often recognize it, but literally everything within our world is in a dying experience. If I look at this piece of paper and put it down and take out another one, this one had to die in order for me to come to the next one. Our day, I wake up in the morning and that day is there. At night, it dies, so it brings forth the next death, or the next day, which would be, again, the concept of life. And we're so enmeshed in the belief system of death because we're addicted to this thought system. We don't even recognize that that's such a big part of our life experience here. And, the course it's almost like it's got something that's kind of jabbing us. And every time we hear a new concept or an idea that we didn't hear before, it's forcing us to look at the world from a different perspective, in a different way, in a different focal point. And oftentimes when we get poked, it's pretty uncomfortable because I'm pretty set in the ways of what the world is. And someone comes along and says something, the course especially, that disturbs my belief system, it takes some time before we can embrace or open to another way of looking at things. So something you might have heard, you might hear today for the first time, you might not digest it for 10 years because it's like a seed that's being planted, but it's not ready for fruition yet because of the investment in the illusion as being all there is in who I am. So slowly we drop more and more of this, encourage more of this, and then the awareness of what the Course was saying all the time comes to the surface, and it makes sense, as opposed to, what are you talking about? This is a dream. What, huh? It's not our experience. And so we slowly have a better understanding of what's going on and how to undo the process the ego has put into place. Yes, Bob?
That I have a story I would like to say.
Sure.
You were reminded me of it when you said that you cannot change the weather. Why one time me and Pat was going on a trip up to Canada to go to Lake Louise, which is a very beautiful spot. And we got a motel room about 50 miles away from Lake Louise. And we got up that morning and it was raining, and the sky was all dark. And Pat says, "What's the use? We might just as well go back." And I said, "No, we're gonna go ahead." We went ahead and we ran into a beautiful sunny day. And then we went into this parking space, and Pat says, "What are you doing? This is all full. Go up there." And I said, "No, I want a parking space right at the entrance." And I went right at the entrance, and I couldn't have gotten any closer than the entrance. And then I got out of the car and I said, now I need to hear the horn. There's a guy there that plays this long Swedish horn. He wears short pants. I said, now I want to hear the horn. And the horn started to blow. And Pat told me to be quiet. She's making me nervous.
It's scary.
Yeah, right. What's going on here, right?
I have my witness right here.
Yeah, it's really scary.
And also I could go into a strange town and we're looking for a certain place, a new town. We've never been there. And so I tell Pat to just be quiet, to don't talk. And I work myself around. I have a feeling. I go up this street, I go this way, and drive right up to the place.
You say you've never been there before, but maybe you have.
Well, there's that possibility, yes.
Yes, but I'm speaking, this happens at town after town.
Right.
Well,
I don't
life
know.
after life.
I don't know if I've been in all those towns.
Well, but part of that comes because you believe you can do that, Bob. There's
Yes.
some part of your mind that accepts that you can do that, where another person might try to do that and follow your lead and go in there and do the same thing, and it wouldn't work the same way for them because their belief is not there.
See, that my job was to design machines, and sometimes if they have a machine that's not working right, and so it's my job to figure out how to change this in order to make it work. And a lot of times I would do it just by feeling. I would feel that this is. I felt as though that this is not coming from me.
Right.
Bob cannot do this.
Yep.
No.
And I'm sure that's part of the
But I
reason
could
you
do-
were drawn
but I
to
could
the
do-
course. What was that?
Pardon?
I said, I would guess that's part of the reason you were drawn to the course, because you already had some connection with that internal part of yourself.
Right.
That
Yes.
could choose
yes.
differently. Yeah.
Yep.
That could choose differently.
Yep.
Yeah. That could,
So that's my story, and then I'm sticking to it.
All right, Bob. And I don't blame you.
that he could choose differently
Right.
was something that he tapped into a long time ago with these
Right.
these particular things. Yes, that he could choose to be guided by something other than his own
Yes.
idea. Interesting.
And I think all of us, Bob, and everyone in the group, I think we've all had taste or touched this aspect of ourselves before we ever found the course. But to me, it's like the course is helping us to connect with tools so that we stay there more frequently. And it's not necessarily about the outcome as much as it is about the connecting with truth rather than the ego.
Yes.
All right, so paragraph number 10. What could you choose between but life or death, waking or sleeping, peace or war, your dreams or your reality? There is a risk of thinking death is peace because the world equates the body with the self which God created. Yet a thing can never be its opposite. Awaken and forget all the thoughts of death, and you will find you have the peace of God. Yet if the choice is really given you, then you must see the causes of the things you chose between exactly as they are and where they are. All right, so first line, what could you choose between but life or death, waking or sleeping, peace or war, your dreams or your reality? Which really comes back down to what Tashara said earlier, black and white. I'm choosing between life or death, between waking or sleeping, between peace and war, and my dreams or reality. And there really is, from the perspective of the Course, so it appears that we have lots of choices within the world, There's only really one choice in our mind to choose between the ego or to choose for the Holy Spirit. And of course, if we choose for the ego, it's going to result in death, sleeping, war, and my dreams instead of reality. And when we choose for truth, you're going to be choosing for life. And I just want to toss something in there. The Course is very specific in the idea of, we think within the context of the illusion, we're talking about birth and death or life and death. And the Course specifically states the idea that the only place life really exists is in truth. It has nothing to do with the illusion whatsoever. Now, again, that's on a higher level than most of us can live right now, but it's a direction that we will walk to if we keep walking forward in that way. So again, we have to become very clear of there's two choices and what will the results be for either one of the choices. And if I find myself over here and I find that I don't want to identify with that any longer, am I willing to drop that and find out what the answer is or what his answer is? Just keep remembering, we're the ones that stepped away. He's still there and he's the one that's got the answer. If I think I'm going to be in control of the scenario or situation and figure it out, it's not going to happen. So I'm barking up the wrong tree. You know, Ken would sometimes say, you know, we finally, when we found the Course, we finally found the ladder and we put it up against the right building. We still have to climb that building, but at least we're on the right building so that we're climbing for a good purpose as opposed to chasing our tail in the illusion. So the next line is a very powerful line. There is a risk of thinking death is peace because the world equates the body with the self which God created. So the Course does specifically state the idea that oftentimes in many spiritualities, there is this experience or belief that when you die, you're going to go to heaven and you're going to be peaceful and all your troubles will fall away and that whole deal. But the Course is saying there is a risk of thinking death is peace because the problem lies in the thought in the mind. And the thought in the mind came before the body even occurred. So just because I get rid of my body through death doesn't mean I'm going to go to peace. In fact, I will be in line with whatever thought system I'm identified before my physical body drops away. And if I'm aligned with the ego, I'm not going to go automatically to a place of peace. I'm going to go to an experience of a bodiless experience of the same old same, because it is not coming from the right mind. And when he goes on to say, because the world equates the body with the self which God created. So, you know, we read stories in the Bible and whatever, it says God created the world, God created you. How many hair or pieces of hair are on your head? And it makes the focus of the individual be very special. And what the Course is saying, and when you look at these words, equates the body with the self which God created. The Course would look at that very differently. The self that God created, and notice it's a capital S, is the Son of God, who is aligned with God by being an effect of what God made him before the separation, where we were all one. Then we were aligned with the attributes of the Son of God as God created us. When we chose to separate and chose the opposite of that, we then aligned with the self-made self that has nothing to do with what God created. Now, the trick of that is, though this is what we accept and believe of ourselves now, the self that we really are doesn't change. It's available to us any moment that we choose to drop the investment in the ego. Then we automatically line up with what we really are. But to whatever degree, if I'm aligned with this and accept this as my reality, in the separated state, which is what we did when we chose for separation, these are the automatic effects that are going to come with that choice. So again, a part of the course is helping us to become very in tune with what the choice that we made is, why we made it, and what the results are of us choosing this. So that eventually we will question, do I want to continue to choose a separated experience that gives me guilt, sin, and fear, projection, and difference, rather than peace and love and joy and oneness? And if I want to be special and different and in charge and the creator, I don't want to align with what he has to offer. So it's kind of reminding us in this line that the experience that God created as the Son has nothing to do with the illusion, which is a little hard for many people to take when they come to the course initially, because this is all we seemingly know. And we want God to come and fix us and take care of us and do whatever in the world. And so the ego produced, I guess you could say, the God of sickness, as the Course describes it, which is an experience of something outside of me that is my God. But this God is not always a loving God. He comes with a mixed bag, because he's a result of the projection from the separated mind. So the God of specialness, as the Course talks about it, is the God that does see you in the world and interacts and whatever, but it also closes off our awareness of the God that simply is love. And there is absolutely nothing other than the expression of love, which again is our true heritage as well. But when we chose for the ego, we closed off that connection of what that is. All right, so I'm going to read that line again. So there is a risk of thinking death is peace, because the world equates the body with the self, capital S, which God created. Which again, God did create the Son, but the Son has nothing to do with the illusion. The illusion is the Son's playground after he chose to separate. Yet a thing can never be its opposite. So again, we can't be this and be the effect of the Son, the effect of love and oneness. We are either aligned with this or we're aligned with this. And when he talks about the idea, well, a thing it can never be its opposite. How can I be the opposite of what I am? Wouldn't make any sense. And death is opposite to peace because it is opposite to life. So again, the very fact that we popped into a world that we know that I was born on a certain day and I'm going to die on a certain day, whether I know what that day is or not, is a representation that I've aligned with this thought system. Again, not to make us feel bad or feel guilty, because this is where we find ourselves, but to become aware, this is where I found myself, and there's something wrong with this picture if God is eternal and his Son is an effect of his eternity. There's something is out of place here, not working quite right.
And Marianne, as you saying,
Yeah.
that shows us our relationship with death.
Yes, right.
Right. As talked about in the obstacles of peace, our attraction to.
Yes. And yes, that's part of the package we bought when we chose for the separation. We chose the opposite of eternity. And what's the opposite of eternity? Death. And so, like, the whole storyline is based on that concept. It can't not be in this context. So ultimately, it's not true. But which thought system do I adhere to? It's the one that's going to get played out in my experience. And we know, this is a course about Jesus. Jesus died on the cross. Okay, his physical body did die on the cross, but his mind was aligned with who he was. So that experience of dying on the cross had no effect on who he was. So for most part, when one of us goes through that process, we're so aligned or addicted to the ego, we play the part of all the aspects that occur when a body goes through the process of dying.
And that being the pathway for us to look at our fears. You know, I know it's nice to, I've had the experience of looking for methods, ways, and what is it, that I could live
Could
in
you
a,
speak up just a little bit, Tashara? I can't hear you very well.
okay, sorry, on this iPad, I don't know what, is that better?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Okay. Looking for some kind of method and way that I could live in a more blissful, easier, have a blissful, easier experience in
Yes.
this world.
Yes.
But this course is not about that. And I'm finding that, wow, moving through the darkness, moving through the fear, looking at the fear and the pain and stuff, and being with that in a different, for me, it's a different relationship with it. You know, moving through a different relationship with it where it's not what I think it is.
Right.
And what I'm most afraid of as a self, you know, is giving up my concept, my beliefs, or what's been established in me as real and not real.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, I've given the example, most of people in the group have a cell phone. Didn't have one maybe 10 years ago or whatever. And you live perfectly fine without your cell phone. And then you got your cell phone and you got used to it. And now it's like, if you forget it, you think you left your arm at home. And we very easily get addicted to new things within the world. Well, just think how addicted we are to, I mean, this thought system has been in existence since the Big Bang. It's a well-established thought system. And it doesn't get erased by one choice over here. It gets erased by continually choosing for truth instead of the ego. But literally every aspect of your identification with your body, every aspect of your prejudices, your thoughts, your beliefs, all that is going to be challenged because it's not what you are. It's not who you are. But there's places in the course where it says for every one of those that get, you know, shattered or taken away, it feels like a threat, only because I'm identified with this thought system. It's not real. How could I be threatened by a thought system that isn't real? The only way that could be is because I'm invested in the thought system. But if a thought system isn't real, it's still not real. Even if
But I make it real.
I what?
But I make it real.
Well, I mean, not as Bob, but as this setup, definitely. Yeah. And it's not easy. I mean, it's like, I think of it as we're born into this little box and then somebody starts kicking in our box. Well, I don't want my box kicked in because I feel like that's my security. And literally the course is not just going to kick a little on the left side, it's going to knock the whole box down because the box is not who I am. But as long as I believe I am that, it's going to feel threatening or uncomfortable, and it's going to take some time to, you know, kind of grow into a different awareness of what I really am. And it's, you know, to me, it's almost sounds absurd that we have to, I guess you could say, practice or choose to remember what we already are. I mean, that seems nutsy. And yet it's because we've invested in this belief system so heartily that we have to basically unbelieve it. But
well, the fact that there's a better way, that this better way has come up as a subject in the book.
Yep.
So we are in this box of not knowing.
Yes.
And then we have to keep choosing again to keep looking for the better way for each of us. So it doesn't happen until it dawns on us that this is not fun. I don't like how this is going. I need a better way. So that's just,
right.
We just have to keep,
yes.
keep choosing again to keep looking for the better way. And once we get a little bit of it, then we can catch on a little better.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because it's almost like we've finally dropped what the ego said we would never, ever, ever look at or drop, and we choose differently, and we begin to see a reflection of love in our world instead of reflection of guilt, sin, and fear. And we appreciate that that's a better place to be, so then we're more likely to choose. And then it becomes more of a practice of, yeah, I'm not too happy with this. Let's see what his answer is. All right, awaken and forget all thoughts of death, and you will find you have the peace of God. Well, what are all the thoughts of death? Literally our entire experience as a separated son. Not just one little corner over here, one little corner over here. Literally all of it is the opposite of peace or the concept of death. And again, as I said a few minutes ago, it's hard for us to even wrap our minds around the idea that this entire thought system represents death. That doesn't make sense for my ego mind, who's very attached to believing that this is my reality. And yet, as we keep practicing and keep embracing this, the understanding of that will come to the surface, and it will make a lot more sense. All right, so, and death is opposite to peace because it is the opposite. Wait a minute, I forgot a line here. Yet if, oh no, there we are. Okay, awaken and forget all thoughts of death, and you will find you have the peace of God. So when we awaken, or we drop this and we awaken to the memory of love, we then will find out what peace really is. This peace is not available here. Yet if the choice is really given you, then you must see the causes of the things you chose between exactly as they are and where they are. So basically Jesus is saying, you're going to have to get a real clear picture that this is peace and oneness, this is death and separation and guilt, sin, and fear, and become very aware they're both thought systems, and each of these thought systems will operate the effect that you see in the world and experience in the world. And if you start to really get that this is really what we're up against, you won't be pulled in or drawn into all the specifics that occur in the world. You start to catch yourself and go, oh, there I go, I'm losing, and my peace is gone. I must have decided wrongly. Instead of falling into the trap of evaluating it, trying to fix it, trying to change it, blaming somebody else, and all those wonderful things that we as good little egos do on a very regular basis. You start to realize, wait a minute, something's not right here. I must have decided wrongly. And I want to find out what his answer is, not my answer. And again, even that takes me down a couple notches, because that means I don't know. And for a lot of us, we like to know. We not only like to know, we like to be in charge. We want to be in control. I mean, the whole deal when we started, excuse me, the whole deal when we started was I wanted to be in charge. I didn't want God to be in charge anymore. I want to make my own world and be in charge. Well, here we are. And as the Course is literally actually trying to help us understand, you got what you wanted. How do you like it? Only we have to understand that how enmeshed in this thought system and what it represents before we come to the point where we're going to gladly say, yeah, I'm ready to let that go because I don't want it anymore. And as we talked about Helen and Bill, that moment where they had that, there must be another way, came at a desperate moment of, I've had enough of what's going on here. But what we do is we choose, and then we get pulled back into the world, and we go play in another corner of the sandbox for a while. And then we get, pulled in and realize, wait a minute, something's not right here. And then we ask, and then we get back in the world and start playing there again. Because we're not completely convinced that the answer is to leave the illusion. Not physically leave the illusion, but in your mind, of the identification, what the illusion represents.
Mary Ann, I want to say,
Go for it.
you know, this is one of my spots where nothing works in the world for you anymore. And
Yep.
from coming to that place of complete failure, I'm a complete failure. Nothing works in this world. And looking around,
Yep.
my experience, like Helen and Bill, nothing's working. What else? And having an appreciation
Yeah.
for
Right, and realizing that's good news, not bad.
yes, stop. That
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing.
What
It
a
feels so
what a
bad
club
when
to belong to, Tashara.
what?
What a club to belong to. I had enough of all this. Now, come
The
on.
complete
Come
failure.
on, you got to be kidding. Jesus, get over here. Help me now. Thank you very much.
You know that you're a complete failure at everything in the world. Now what?
Yes,
Thank
but
Yeah,
those
now
are,
what? Yeah.
but those are really the moments that are the biggest jewels for us, because when you really come to that, you're saying, I don't got a clue, bud. I need your help. And those are the moments that shift can really begin to occur, because you've put down all your arms, you put down all your weapons, you put down all the ways that you think you could figure it out. And I often think of the story of Buddha, where he searched the world, and he apparently bird poop and dates or something for many years and all kinds of things, and he just kept going from one idea to another trying to figure it out. And then eventually sat down exhausted, and it came to him because he wasn't the doer of the trying to accomplish it anymore. He finally sat down exhausted with no other way of figuring it out on his own.
Yes. Humbling.
Yeah.
Humbling.
There you go. Yeah. But I think
Like you get to
go ahead.
you get to the bottom of your exhaustion for how this isn't working. It's not just the little radio that you can take over to the shop and have them fix. It's nothing. It's just not working, and you don't feel like a failure for saying that. You feel like there's got to be something else.
Yeah.
Or what am I living for? What am I doing here? Who am I? I guess that's probably, that was a question that all the philosophers have asked, who am I? And when you answer that question, then you're ready to get answers.
And Andrea, you
Or
feel like
when
failure,
you
and
ask the
so
question,
what?
who am I? Then
Wait a
you're
minute,
ready. Yeah.
Andrea, you hear this? You feel like
What's
the
that?
failure. You're in the position of failure, and so what?
Yeah.
But if
Who
you
are
look
you?
at it in the context of a world where I'm supposed to be something, I'm supposed to shine, I'm supposed to whatever supposed to is going to entail, and you're trying so desperately to be something in the world, it's painful to come to the realization that I don't know anything. I mean, ultimately that's the best news, but initially it's pretty hard place to come to without a fight.
And I think it's part of the process.
Yes,
I know for me, I've had a lot of anger because this is not working, and I can't find happiness out there, and there's a lot of anger involved in that. I think that's all part of the process.
I agree. And there's a line in the course where it says, when you're in the desert, don't try to fix the desert, go home. Well, we're still in the desert trying to make it work.
That you can't be happy out there. Happiness doesn't come from out there. It comes from inside.
I hear you, Bob, but I still look for it. I'm still looking for it.
It's not there. Why do you keep looking?
We don't know why.
Every time you choose ego, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
I can't stop that choice. All I can do is be aware that that's my choice. The goal of the course is not for me to stop choosing ego. It's for me to be aware of what is happening in my mind. So every time I'm upset and I get angry about, you know, not finding happiness out in the world, what teacher am I listening to? That's all it's telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this course takes us and turns us inside out, because the way we approach it is from wanting to know things, and we can't know the things. There's no happiness where we're looking, so we've got to get turned inside out.
I am not aware that I am looking for happiness on the outside. As far as that goes, I don't think I am looking for happiness.
I'm aware that I'm not necessarily looking for it. I think there's still a nugget out there, like Marianne says, the shiny coin. And my frustration now, what I'm experiencing now, is the upset and the anger that's not satisfying me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like I guess it's kind of a Dark Knight type of situation, because I can't find it here and I can't find it, and I don't want to look at it over here. You know, I don't want to go to that side of the chart. And it's that internal struggle. I think that's just part of the process. If I'm judging it, I'm back on the left side of the chart again.
Yep.
You know, it's like Marianne says, we got to be incredibly gentle with ourselves, because this is not easy.
And vigilant, yes, because I'm looking at it every time there's a small upset, you know, a twinge of dissatisfaction of this and that. It's just there because why? Because I'm in this body, I'm in this embodiment, and I'm taking it serious, and it ain't.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And again, we don't even know how addicted we are to the body, and we don't see through the lens clearly that that's really what's going on. I'm identified with the body, and therefore I can't see this clearly. And yet you can't not be where you are. So as Rose was saying, you keep looking at what's going on, and when you're looking, you're not identified with the hero anymore. You're rising above and you're observing what's going on instead of being the character. And that's what it is.
That you see, I look at the Holy Spirit, and I say that I am going to be part of one. I got to follow the one, and I'm really not sure I want that.
No, you probably don't really want it, and that's another problem.
Really, right. I want to be special. I want to be my own person. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. This is how I am. I never hang out in groups, because I don't want to do what a group does. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yep, that's kind of the form that you play, Bob, that Rose was saying you need to look at. I don't want to really conform. I don't want to be, the same. I want to be different. I mean,
right.
That's helpful information.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, every time I say I want something,
That's where I'm at.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Got to remember, we are what we are. We identify with our name and our bodies.
Oh, big time.
And when we get to that point where we want to lose that, then things begin to change.
Right.
Fear really begins to grasp you. When you think you're going to not be what you think you really are.
Yep.
That I had hated the Army. I hated it with a passion, and going back to God is like going back to the Army.
You're absolutely
the authority problem.
You see, and I had one heck of a time that I was afraid when I was in basic training that I was going to commit a suicide. That I was so, and then I got sent over to Korea, and then I knew I had to do something, otherwise I may commit suicide. So I went up and climbed up on top of a mountain, and I screamed at God. I cussed God out, and I was mad. I spent about a half a day up on that mountain cussing out God and madder than hell. And after that I was better.
Mhm. And that could have been your crack right there, Bob, of, I can't do this.
Right. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's not very much fun.
Wearing this crummy uniform and driving in those trucks on dusty, dirty roads, and it's terrible. Sleeping in a tent on a cot,
Doesn't sound appealing to me at all.
And then I come home and what? My son joins the Army for 20 years. I wanted to strangle him.
Right. So did you choose to go to the service, Bob?
No, I was drafted.
All right. I had a feel.
No. I felt as though I was in the Army so rich people could make money selling the government tanks. And I figured, well, one day I'll be out of the Army and maybe I'll be one of the rich people while somebody else goes and fights the war and loses their arms and all this for these politicians. No, I was a very angry person.
Yeah.
And probably still am to a certain extent.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So back to paragraph number 10, line 7. Yet if the choice is really given you, then you must see the causes of the things you choose between exactly as they are and not where they are. So again, if we only look within the illusion, we're never going to figure out what the deal is. We have to go beyond the illusion to get to the awareness of the choice that's against the choice of love. And as Bob was sharing very honestly, which I appreciate, he's very aware that I don't want to be a nothing. I don't want to be, I want to be an individual. I cherish my concept of being an individual. And we need to look at how much we are still very much invested. Not only that we're invested in it, that we still want it. Because that really is very good piece of awareness. Because I think I want God and love more than anything in the world sometimes. And I can sit here and go, oh, I just want love. I just want love. And then something comes along that says, okay, Bob, are you ready to drop this? And Bob goes, oh, no, I need to be in control. And, Bob has his way of doing it. And we each have our way of being and holding on to that individual aspect of who we are. Whether you're especially good or especially bad, it doesn't matter. As long as I got an individual representation of who I am, I like that. And we have to honor it. We do like it and still do like it very much.
Oh, well, when I was in school, I was not that good in school, so I was always the bad one.
Okay.
Bad.
Yeah, I'll play one part or the other.
Yeah, and I wouldn't follow the school's rules.
What a surprise.
And one day the principal called me and my brother into the office and showed our stack of cards where we had all the things we'd done wrong and compared it to the rest of the school. And our cards was twice the size of the whole rest of the school.
Well, that kind of reminds me of the story Ken often would tell, and I think I mentioned it even last week, that when we're born, we have two pieces of paper and we write down what we've done wrong, and then we write down what somebody else has done wrong, and all we care about is when we're done, somebody else is worse than we are. And the school found you to be worse. But that's the game of, don't you understand? I may not be perfect, but I'm more innocent than somebody else. And it's a comparison game, and there is no comparison in oneness. And it's so important to get. In oneness, there is nothing to compare to.
Then I also have the fear, like one time we bought a radio and everything was surround sound. And all the speakers, and man, that sounded really good for a couple days and it didn't sound any different than anything else. And so I'm afraid I work like mad and I go back to God and for a day it's wonderful. And after that, it's boring again. It's the same thing as with the surround sound.
I have a feeling, Bob, that you will find when you get there, you won't care if it's all the same when you really let go of the ego. And you know, I know we've read sections in the course where it talks about taking the most wonderful moment in your entire life and multiplying it 1,000 times, 1,000 times, 1,000. And that experience is way beyond anything, even at that ratio. But that's part of the ego mind. You know, how many people will say, well, I don't want to go to heaven. All they'll do is sing Kumbaya. What good is that? And if you're addicted to the illusion with the excitement and the thrill and the ups and the downs, doesn't sound very appealing at all. But
Right.
I really think as we really get this and we begin to drop it more and more, we are going to embrace that when that moment happens.
I hope that that's right.
Yep. Well, and as they say, you could always choose wrongly again if you don't
Right.
like it.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, isn't that great? All right, so paragraph number 11. What choices can be made between two states, but one of which is clearly recognized? Who could be free to choose between effects when only one is seen as up to him? An honest choice could never be perceived as one in which the choice is split between a tiny you and an enormous world with different dreams about the truth in you. The gap between reality and dreams lies not between the dreaming of the world and what you dream in secret. They are one. The dreaming of the world is but a part of your own dream you gave away and saw as if it were its start and ending both. Yet was it started by your secret dream, which you do not perceive, although its cause, the part you see and do not doubt, is real. How could you doubt it while you lie asleep and dream in secret that its cause is real? Another paragraph with lots of words. Okay. What choice can be made between two states, but one of which is clearly recognized? Well, right now, we only know that this is something to choose from. We don't understand this. We don't get this. It's like, okay, yeah, that's nice, but you know, I'm going back here and take care of business where I am. We don't see that this is really the choice and this is really the mistake. Because we're, again, so addicted to it, so used to it, so a part of it. Who could be free to choose? Yeah, was there some comment?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Ben.
You mentioned that we all want to go to God,
Right.
but as we make that choice, I can't go to God as Don.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That's the big problem.
Yes. It is a big problem. And you know, that line that we read, where did that go? There is a risk in thinking death is peace because the world equates the body with the self which God created. Well, we think God created this. What God created has nothing to do with this. This is just the cloud that covers over this. And to the degree that I'm afraid or uncomfortable aligning with an experience that has nothing to do with anything that Don is, that's terrifying for where we are for the most part.
Yes.
And again, that's why he introduced the concept of the little willingness. In this moment, just this moment, are you willing to drop your investment in this? And the answer may be yes, the answer may be no. But at least there's an awareness that I do have the possibility that I can choose. And eventually we will come to a moment where, yeah, okay, in this moment, I'm willing, show me. And that's what begins to open the door a little bit wider and wider and wider.
I mean, don't you have to, you have to start somewhere. You start out as Don asking,
Yes. Yes.
Holy Spirit, how do I do this? So you start out, and then the bridge is the Holy Spirit. That's the idea, that, you know, we have to start out with who we are, with who we think we are. And when we're not happy, when we're very uncomfortable in the world, we think we're it. And so you of course, I mean, maybe that's, you know, that the end result is that you wise up and you see better that you are not it, and that what is beyond that, on the other side of the you know, the bridge of the willingness to go and check to see what else there is.
Right. And again, you know, this requires me dropping my investment in me. And that's not something any one of us really enjoys for the most part. Now, as we keep doing this and become more acclimated to it and begin to see the results or the reflection of that in our lives, we're more willing to do it. But I don't, you know, I want God to come over here and take care of business here and make my life a little bit more comfortable, and we're all good to go. Well, the Course is trying to help us understand that is not the way this is going to work. First of all, God doesn't know about this, which is pretty shocking for most people as they first start coming to the Course. But God does know who we are. He just doesn't know who you are because we're wearing our Halloween costume. And in our Halloween costume, we're not expressing what we really are. We need you to drop.
Marianne, isn't that interesting in this time that we're all wearing masks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Just another layer.
No, but then again, I would also say that, you know, that when I was one with God, and I came over towards the ego,
Oh.
and being one with God was thousands of times better than being with the ego. Why didn't I jump back to God? It's
Yeah,
like
right.
it's like here. If I put my hand in a frying pan, I'm going to take it off.
Right.
Wouldn't I do the same thing?
Well, apparently, Bob, when that occurred, a couple things happened. Okay, first of all, we made that choice because we wanted to be an individual, special, and different, and be the creator / maker. Well, we still wanted that, okay?
Right.
And we were now afraid of God because the first rule of separation is that I'm going to project what's in my mind on what's outside of me. So we projected the guilt, sin, and fear on God, and we made God a character much like we were, who could be harming, who could be bad, it could be good, it could be whatever. And we put a Halloween costume on God as well. So now we're afraid of God. We also enjoy the idea of being an individual and special and being the maker, the creator. So the way we solved the problem was to dump it in the world and pretend that we were not the one that made that choice. And blame somebody else.
So it was like a trap.
It's a trap. Yep. It's a trap that we set up for ourselves to get out of, being the one that was at fault.
Right. Yeah.
Did you have something, Bert?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I mean, what we're talking about here within the confines of my mind is giving up one illusion for another illusion. And God itself, within the confines of my mind, is an illusion.
Correct.
And what the Course is asking me to do, not that simply, when it says, simply do this in lesson 189. Still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is.
Yep.
All concepts that you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of every thought that it judges worthy and all ideas in which it's ashamed. So what that Course is asking me to do is to empty myself and stop thinking. Thinking in and of itself is the block to it.
Yeah. Well,
It seems to me that what I've learned is that God lives in between the space between the thoughts. You become very quiet and observe your mind. You can't shift thoughts without passing neutral. And that's where God lives.
yeah.
How do I empty my mind?
Right. Well, and ultimately, the Course even explains to us that you're never really thinking. You think you're thinking, but thinking
Yeah.
is part of the illusion as well. And so it's the unthinking. And I think we could think, haha, that's funny. What we need to do is observe how often we're thinking, and observe how much we want to be in control, and observe how many times our mind just automatically goes to, wait a minute, I got to do this or fix that or change that. And, you know, this whole idea of dropping what the ego is invested in is that dropping of my investment in thinking I know something, and say, what, I don't know, show me. But we're so attached to being the one in charge and the thinking and the figuring out and all that kind of stuff.
It's the exact opposite of what it is that we think.
Yes.
Everything that I need to know is within the confines of that empty space.
Yes.
And I'm too busy trying to know something, when if I could quiet my mind, everything that I need to know comes to me in the exact moment that I need to know it. So there's nothing for me to know.
No, well, and you don't know anything even when you thought you knew. So can I interrupt you for a second and just ask everybody to put themselves on mute except for Bert, because I can hear the background. But yes, that's exactly what we're talking about, Bert, is anytime I have any focus on here, I'm wrong. I mean, wrong in the idea of choosing for truth. And yet observe how often I'm playing in this arena. And you know, the section you read, I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking. Just drop it all. Well, that sounds beautiful, sounds easy. So yeah, I'll just drop it. But look how quickly one of these pops in and, you know, grabs you by the neck and pulls you down again. Because this is what we have purchased from the catalog, and it's just bringing back what we've asked for. So as we can look at it and still our mind and go, wait, no, not going there. Show me who I am as quickly as we possibly can.
And that's
the condemnation.
And that's it. Looking at it without disposing, making a harsh judgment. You know what I'm saying? Attack, but looking. Kindly upon what? Upon who has appeared before me.
Which is really what the Course is saying. The Course is saying, you chose for the ego, this is the result. No brainer, that's the facts, man. So when we're asked to look at the world that's made of this, and we can add a bazillion more negative responses, or whatever you want to call it, that's what you're going to get when we've chosen this. And we've chosen this. So he's asking us to rise above the battleground and look at the characters in the dream, of which one of them is me, but not judge or attack it, because it's not real. It's just an effect of a choice that was simply a mistake. And when we were able to do that and not get invested in, oh, Mary Ann's bad because she did this, or she should have done that, and all that kind of stuff that we all churn around in our thinking, in our minds, and just simply look, oh, there goes Mary Ann, she's doing blah, 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 and this is the result of that. And boy, that doesn't look very much fun, but of course, that's exactly what she would do because she's invested in her ego. That stops the carpet of time rolling out. And that's where the healing really comes. Because I'm not, every time I'm here and I play the part of me, bring that down here, what I do is I blame my brother for the problem, because he seemingly took my peace away as a result of this choice. And then he attacks me, and then I attack him, and then I feel bad because I attack him, and on the story goes. All I'm doing is recycling the very thought system that I say I no longer want. So Jesus is saying, no, stop, rise above the battleground and watch the characters playing out this storyline, but don't be surprised if that's what they're going to do. Because it's when I judge it or hate it or deny it or resist it that I actually feed into it. And it's a major trap that's...
No, just let me ask you real quick. I don't want to...
Go ahead.
A while back, you talked about walking towards the light. And then as this meeting progressed, then on several occasions, who am I came up.
Okay.
And, you know, walking towards the light, the reality of it is that I am the light.
That's correct.
It's just
Right.
dim. Okay, now, so I watched this documentary on the light is called photons, photons, photons. And apparently there's a photometer. I'm embellishing here, but so they put a guy in a room and his light or his reading is 100, 110, 120. They turn off the lights and he starts to meditate, meaning he consciously quiets his mind. The photometer readings go up to 1,000. So, I mean, the only reason that I'm bringing this up is there's scientific now measurements and proof that forget this book, forget this world, forget everything that it is that you think that you know. That's what turns up the light. Replacing this with another book, you know, I used to be a Christian and then I became a Buddhist and now I study the Course in Miracles. That's just replacing one illusion for another.
Well, but I think if you take the information that the Course is offering, it's not about the words in the book. It's about using the words of the book to understand the thought system of the book so that eventually you'll drop your investment in what you think is what your value is,
Right.
which will take you to the remembrance of the fact that you're the light. You know, just like...
Marianne, now
yeah.
I'm going to shock the hell out of you.
No, go for it. I doubt it, but go on.
Now you are. Now, Bert. Just
No, yeah.
now you're doing that. Okay, good.
No,
Go, Bert.
Marianne,
Yes.
I agree with everything that you just said 100%. I need the book to reverse the process, to bring me to a place where I say to myself, I don't need this book. And that's what the book is telling me.
Right, exactly.
I mean, all the way at the end.
Yeah, well, but think about having a map to go to Disneyland. I mean, you need the map while you're going to Disneyland, but when you get there, you're not going to sit in the car and stare at the map. Duh, that would be totally useless. But we have to, you know, and the Course is kind of I'm going to say brutal in the respect that it's not just saying pretend you're light, or visualize your light. It's saying, let's look at the darkness. Let's really get in tune with the darkness so that you can recognize what the darkness represents, why it was chosen, what is the value of having chosen, till you realize, I don't want to choose that anymore. That doesn't feed me anymore. There was a purpose and a value for me to choose that. And that purpose and value does not feed me any longer. I want to know who I am as light, which I, as the ego, can't solve that problem or figure it out either. And as long as I'm identifying with the ego, trying to make the awareness of what the truth is, I'm still the I'm trying to do it. So when it says drop all of everything, which you come to it at a point where you finally get all the purpose of the ego, then you're willing to drop the ego to find out what truth is. The truth that was always there, always, always, always there, what you are, but you didn't know it because this covered it over.
And
I'm not criticizing the book.
As long as I'm terrified and avoiding and in resistance of what is happening, nothing happening. You know, I'm chasing a tail.
Yep.
Well, and also this book is a symbol of my right mind.
Correct. And you don't need symbols when you are the right mind.
Right.
But in order to get to the right mind, I use the symbols that are very helpful to take me to that last moment where I'm no longer identified with me. I'm simply what I really always was.
You know, I know it's you know, what Bert's bringing up, I think that's lesson 189. If you notice, though, it's not lesson 1. Forget this course. Forget, you know.
No.
It's not a
One,
coincidence.
lesson 189.
Right.
And I'm not criticizing the book and or its value.
Right.
I've just gotten to a place where I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm feeling closer to God, which is me and or the light, when I don't read the book anymore. I don't need any book.
Well, what about, would you be even closer if you stopped watching someone measure the light to know that where it comes from? That's what I don't need anymore. I used to need to go to church and have people measure my light and say, oh, you did this and you were good at that and look how you helped somebody. But the proof is not in measurement in the outside world either. The proof comes from within, and then you don't have to question yourself or other people about it. It just is.
Okay, so then that's a good point. And yes, you could say that the documentary relative to the light is no different than the book. So point well.
Right, and all the things that it is calculating are aspects of form. Light has nothing to do, this light what we're talking about has nothing to do with form.
So then I would go back to where God lives in the empty space between the book and the documentary. But this whole concept of no thing is probably the hardest thing.
Of course.
Get our arms around.
It's yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And so we substitute it with all the other things that we can conjure up that will help define it, which really don't define it, but that's the best we can do right now until we're ready to even drop that.
And that's so interesting. I have to get my arms around something.
Yeah.
You know, I got to control it. How? Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to give us credit for trying.
Well, we just can't conceive of the abstract. That's, you know, and that's okay. And I hear you, Bert. I really do. It's because even Ken says the course can be an addiction. It can be just another addiction.
Sure.
So we have to be mindful of that.
Yep.
Here's the thing about the book, Rose, or Marianne, and everyone. This book has changed my life. I believe that it has made my life better and my interaction with other people better. So once again, I'm not criticizing the book. It's been very useful.
We gotcha.
However, I'm getting to the point where I can just empty myself as a result of probably practicing the book.
And I think that's the whole issue right there is I practice. The book is helping me practice.
I'm practicing this human condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also you're looking for a better way is what has changed your life. It's not about the words. It's about your passion to find a better way to what you've been living. Just like Helen and Bill.
Yeah,
that's where it came from. That's where it came from. Your deep desire to well, you're looking for a better way.
Can I respond to my fellow human beings with love versus I used to respond to my fellow human beings with anger, bitterness, and hate. And on occasion, I still do that. And when I do, I wake up to myself and I don't like who it is, that illusion of who it is that I think that I am. So yes, this is very beneficial.
Right. But they are actually your salvation again, because they are reminding you there's some aspects of you that are still identified with the ego. And that is the practice of the words that are found in the book. I mean, we could read the book forever, but if we don't put it into practice in our lives, we might as well just you know, put the book
No,
away unless you just
The
like reading.
brotherhood, when we get to that particular point, the brotherhood, whatever that is, reveals ourselves to ourselves. I can look at myself and go, wow,
The
where
world.
did all that anger come from?
Yeah, the
And I
world.
realize it still lives inside of me.
Yes.
One of the things I've looked at is that it has really helped me look at the bullshit that where we are, and it ain't nice. It's messy. Until I can look at and really admit this is a mess. This is not working.
Right. Yep.
Thank you, Marianne. I love you.
Love you too, sweetie. All right, I think we better close. And since we got a couple people that are new today, what I normally do is I put everybody on mute, we say the prayer, and then I'll stay online till 5:30 or so if anybody wants to chit chat or whatever. All right. Okay, so I invite you to take a nice big deep breath and close your eyes. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds which you've created and which you love. Amen. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's supported me and the group as we've been doing Zoom to help pay the expenses of Zoom and whatnot. So thank you very much. And if anybody wishes to do so, that I usually have that information on the email. So with that, I'm going to open everybody up if anybody wants to have anything to share. And if not, have a good week. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Marty.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you, Bert. Nice.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Bert. Hey, Bert. Did you go already?
Marianne, I want to
Okay.
kind of dovetail on something that Bert
Sure.
was saying about,
I didn't recognize
you know, we slip back. We're going back and forth between system. And Bert, I think you said something about, you know, you slip back into the ego thought system and